Yes, hello. I am James Rowlands, and today it's a WNR374 AEW Prelude, and I'm not alone. I have the pleasure to be joined by Jaxie. How you doing?
Hi, all good. How are you, James?
Oh, all the better for having you on the show to join me for AEW today. I'm doing well. How are you? Things are going well for you, I suppose.
Yeah, things are all good, thank you. Starting a new role next week and just, enjoying wrestling life right now.
Well, this is weird to have you on because this is the first time we've reviewed a together. We've been on the other side,
Yeah,
WWE. How long have
yeah.
you been How long have you been watching AEW?
I have to admit, I am one of those fans that started with AEW from the beginning, and I've stuck with it ever since. So, I've been doing both shows. Again, I'm one of those people on wrestling Twitter that just really enjoys the wrestlers. It's not really about the brand. So I'm not one of those people that's WWE versus AEW. I love both brands.
Yeah, and if that was the case here on the podcast, we'd be against ourselves anyway in a kind of weird timeline. So I suppose,
Yeah.
I suppose it will work out. So
Yeah.
we're gonna cover Dynamite, 3 episodes of Dynamite today, and the first ever Rampage. But before we start, the massive rumours swirling around at this moment in time: CM Punk, Daniel Bryan to AEW. What are your? Is this a real game changer if it happens?
I mean, this is kind of like the best kind of news to get as a wrestling fan, to be honest. You've got two iconic wrestlers who are extremely talented and who should definitely be somewhere on a wrestling card. And both of them potentially going to AEW. This is definitely big, not just for them, but for the company as well itself as well. They're already picking up such huge stars as it is. So if this is true and they've managed to actually, get some sort of deal with both Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, it's going to be Christmas for us wrestling fans.
It really, really is. And but do you think there's a chance AEW might shoot themselves in the foot? I mean, they've hyped up the first dance in Chicago. They've sold out, massive 23,000 arena. Of course, you've
Yep.
got All Out coming to Chicago and another tour there. If it's
Mm.
not CM Punk, then will there kind of, like you said, will there be a reaction to it?
I think there will definitely be a reaction to it if CM Punk doesn't turn up. However, I don't know if it will solely be on like the sort of AEW stars that would necessarily get the brunt of the blame. I think that it could be seen as even them sort of like calling out Punk, being like, well, what are you doing then? Where are you? You've got loads of fans here looking for you. So what are you doing? But then it was really really strange because there was a quote made by John Cena this week as well about CM Punk. Like he had said to Roman Reigns on this week's SmackDown something like, maybe I'll just take that title off you, walk out into the audience and blow you a little kiss. And you're just like, why are everyone dropping these Punk things? Like it really is something to throw you off balance. I think there will be a lot of extreme disappointment if he doesn't actually show up in Chicago.
Do you know something I would, and again, I love AEW and WWE, as much as anything together, but it would be hilarious if CM Punk showed up at fucking SummerSlam. The AEW fans.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine? Okay, that would be carnage. I don't think that we can actually hold wrestling fans like accountable for their actions if he actually did turn up at SummerSlam. Also, I would just be like, why? Why would you do that to yourself, Punk? Oh, I hope he doesn't do that.
It would be the biggest swerve. We just, oh my God.
It would be the biggest slap in the face for all wrestling fans.
Well, like I said, that's a great way to start, but we're going to go now into Dynamite, the July 28th edition, and it's Wednesday. You know what that means. So last time out, we had Fighter Fest, but Fight of the Fallen had a stacked card as well. And we see the intro ready to start. And my first match is Hangman Adam Page and Dark Order, Alex Reynolds, Eva Uno, John Silver, and Stu Grayson versus the Elite, Doc Gallows, Machine Gun Carl Anderson, Kenny Omega, and Nick Jackson elimination tag team matchup. Of course, if the Dark Order and Page lost, they lose their opportunities at the titles. I really enjoyed the entrances, the pop for the cowboy and the attires.
Oh
was
my God, yeah.
sensational. And then, of course, the Elite coming up just as the Space Jam as well. What we
um, so let's start with the good stuff, because Dark Order's entrance with Hangman Page was probably the first time we've actually seen them all kind of dressed like a team. And the utter pop that Hangman Page got was just insane. He is such a great character, and just finally seeing him accept the Dark Order as friends was just such a heartfelt moment. And seeing them all kind of like pose together in the ring, yeah, it was such a really, really great moment. And then you had the Elite. Oh God, yeah. The reason why I love these guys is because they really are so happy to take the piss out of themselves. And it's like, they're being the ultimate assholes, that they can be. And that's just even shown in their outfits and their attitude, them coming down in the Space Jam outfits, and then, kind of all acting like they're the basketball team. It was just, all of it was brilliantly done. It was just like, you really just think to yourself, what a pair of assholes.
like I said, the comparison between the two, like that's the Dark Order's entrance, probably one of my favorite entries I've seen in a long time. And like I said, the crowd, it's just so pure. Yeah, and
do you know what sorry, as I was saying before, how I had started with watching them from at AEW from the beginning, seeing how the Dark Order got off to a rocky start, seeing how Brody Lee came in and shaped and molded it into something else, and then seeing the amount of respect the Dark Order actually have now. It's just been so great to watch their journey as a group, as a faction.
Like I said, Page is the most over face probably in professional wrestling for a very long time. I mean, even go back to kind of Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania, like the crowd 100% behind him. But Don Callis, will say that. And we start the match. Despite a hot start by the babyfaces, the heel struck first as Kyle Anderson rolled up Alex Reynolds with a handful of tights to score the first elimination. Even though even up the odds, pinning Machine Gun, sending packing. Grayson nearly killed himself for a corkscrew to the outside, and then a new Jack style dive, which led him and Doc Gallows to be counted out. That led to 3-on-3, and then we see a V-trigger and a one-winged angel by Omega to Uno, giving the heels go hand, leaving Page and John Silver defended dreams of holding the AEW gold against Omega and the Bucks. And we see Silver unloaded on Nick Jackson, delivering a burning hammer for a strong near fall. The Bucks halted his mentor with an indie take on the arena floor, leaving him motionless. The BTE trigger to Silver led to his elimination, left Page to go it along against the core members of the Elite. And at this moment, it's a perfect story told, because you've got Page, the guy we're rooting for, against three, you would argue, the three biggest stars in AEW at this moment in time.
Definitely agreed. And there's like that certain amount of pressure as well, because of the fact that we have to take into account this is sort of like first time for like live audiences being back. There's a lot of pressure to kind of be able to like hit your moves properly, as you said with Stu Grayson's corkscrew. I really worried for his head for a second there, but I also did notice how John Silver took notice and was instantly over checking on him and stuff. You can really see kind of the coordination being there, and it, first and foremost, always checking the health and safety.
Yeah, well, I think that's an excellent point. But Page overcame a 3-on-1 disadvantage and wiped the competition out with a top rope moonsault to the floor. He added a double buckshot lariat and pinned Matt Jackson for the latest elimination. Omega benefit from distraction from Nick Jackson using the TNA Championship for a near fall, adding 2 V-triggers for concluded with a 1-winged angel for the pin fall victory. So the match overall, because it was fantastic, wasn't
it? It was a brilliant match, and I think especially when I was watching it at first, I was extremely disappointed with the outcome. However, after kind of sleeping on it, like, this is just storytelling at its finest. Look at if you've been following Hangman Page's career since the beginning of AEW, he was the favorite to be the first ever AEW champion. Everyone was disappointed that he didn't get there. He then went on this, really good flex with having Kenny Omega and him in that tag team championship run, and kind of watching the downfall that was kind of happening with him and spiraling. And then you see this big sort of like what looks to be a redemption for him, and he's still not able to get there. It's storytelling at its finest, because the minute that he does end up being able to take that belt off Kenny Omega, and it will be Kenny Omega, he takes it off of, it's just going to feel so much more rewarding. So I just think that this was just really a really brilliant match, showcasing all of the wrestlers involved, and just really great additional storytelling.
Yeah, like I said, my notes, this is near perfect storytelling. Exactly the same. Page coming also close to achieving his goal of the AEW World Title opportunity. I only see it slip through his fingers via a numbers disadvantage. It's great to see Johnny Hungy as well, one of my favourites in AEW.
Yeah.
But what did you think about JR not being happy? He just wasn't enjoying the matchup at all, was he? You know, like.
Do you know what? I must admit, I didn't really listen much to the commentating of that match, because I was just so engrossed in the match itself. So I didn't even hear if he wasn't happy. But I mean, JR, glad. I was.
Saying stuff like there's just too many guys in the ring at once, you know, there's too many things happening. Going, this is what AEW is all about.
There? Is that like old age there, just saying that? Because I mean, this is what, like you say, wrestling is about. It's absolute carnage. You wouldn't hear JR saying that about Royal Rumble, would you?
No, this is the thing. Well, we move on. We see Pac's interview backstage. He says the Lucha Brothers are here at the airport, but it seems an anonymous individual cancelled their car. I wonder who that could be. And speaking of who it could be, Andrade El Idolo and Chavo Guerrero Jr. interrupt. Chavo apologises for the travel issues and says he booked a limousine for the Lucha Brothers. Andrade wants Pac to learn to treat his people better, because if he doesn't, they'll work for someone who will. Interesting there. We see Taz is on the FTW branded podium or something. It gives Ricky Starks a big intro. There's a live brass band and everything. Starks gets in the ring and on the mic, and he says he loves the intro and notes that Will Hobbs is out recruiting. He talks about winning the FTW championship and getting rid of garbage that is Brian Cage. He's been the glue and the anchor of Team Taz since day one. I can't let things slide. He could forgive Cage for costing him matches, but he can't forgive him for not checking on him when he broke his neck. Enter Brian Cage, basically coming down. He drops a trombone player with a lariat and smashes the brass drum over the percussionist's head. And trombone in hand, Cage goes to the ring and breaks it over his knee. Stark throws the roses at him and runs away. What were your thoughts on this very WWE segment?
Definitely with the drummers and everything out there, it's very WWE. But however, I did like it, and I'll tell you why. I just think that Ricky Starks is an absolute narcissistic asshole, and it's just like very entertaining to watch him. I must admit, when they like kind of screwed him, Brian Cage over for sort of the title stuff, I was a bit disappointed. I thought we'd get more time with him being in Team Taz at first. However, you know, I feel like Brian Cage does have a lot of talent that he's probably being held back from being able to kind of deliver as part of being part of Team Taz. I do, however, think that this needs to kind of like shift a little bit so that it's more of a feud between Brian Cage and Will Hobbs. And I'm not saying that because they're just two big guys, but because Will Hobbs was the one who ended up really costing Brian Cage the match, not Ricky Starks. Brian Hobbs was the one that kind of used the belt, and I want to see Will Hobbs. I want to see Will Hobbs used more. I think he's a brilliant wrestler. He's got so much talent, and I'm kind of like wanting to see him in feuds more. I think him and Brian Cage would be just so dominant in the ring. It would be quite exciting to see both of these Goliaths in the ring taking one another on and just letting loose.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed with Brian Cage, just kind of his treatment as such, because the guy's just a monster, and it seems pretty simple to do what they do. But I think they've
not been unleashed yet.
Yeah, but what maybe I think, because he obviously, I think he needs someone to talk from as well, and maybe what I would do if I was kind of like fancy booking is maybe get Jake St. Roberts, because obviously he's got Lance Archer at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Pair him with Cage and have two absolute monsters. Jake does the talk, and these two guys. They can
that would be really good.
They can feud with Team Taz as well, like we said, with Starks and Will Hobbs, you know, and kind of build from that there, as opposed to kind of, you know, Cage just going around and kind of because the thing is, if he goes around being this kind of bland babyface, then the crowd will eventually. Well, we've seen it. They're cheering more Ricky Starks than they are Cage sometimes, aren't they? You know.
Yeah, definitely. So you've got to kind of ask yourself, like, which direction are they going with either man? Just also to add on about Team Taz, I do think that it would be really good for Team Taz to actually get like a female within their faction. And I'd say that predominantly because then it opens up that group to be able to have a lot more sort of like intergender matches where, right now we've got like sort of groups like the Best Friends with Chris Statlander, we've got the Dark Order with Anna Jay when she returns. So I just feel like, each member of Team Taz, and that includes Brian Cage, I feel like they are underutilized, and I think that they all have individual talents that could be really well used. And I think that even by getting another female and a female within their faction, it would be very good to then like kind of see like where the power struggle lies within different factions.
Yeah, I think that I think it's something that it's just so simple, and with the roster that they've got, they can find an addition to that team as well. Yeah. But we move on and we see Hiroshi Tanahashi send the promo talking up the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship, promising to challenge the winner of tonight's match. And then we move on to FTR, Cash winner Dax Harwood versus Proud and Powerful Ortiz and Santana. We see Harwood and Wheeler cut the ring off, isolating Ortiz from his partner. A hot tag to Santana Sparks babyface comeback that included Wheeler connected with his forearm on the steel post. The bloody after effects kept him for the remainder of the match, forcing Harwood to finish it out. They clearly had to call some audibles along the way. Harwood ultimately pinned Santana to score the win. I thought the crowd was surprisingly flat before the incident, and that cut looked nasty, didn't it?
Yeah. It did. It really did. And I must admit, I really love these two teams. But like I'm honestly a huge Proud and Powerful fan, and they really need like a win. They've been on a real losing streak, and I don't understand why they're such a great team. So I was a little bit disappointed by this match. I didn't see, especially because, FTR had been doing all these things like, beating up Conan and stuff previously. You'd have thought like, they would have gotten that win in front of the crowd to be able to like, get some sort of payback and things. And I just think that they're another team that I really just want to actually see pushed into more of a title picture now, because Santana and Ortiz are so great, like on mic or cutting a promo. They're really passionate. And they've just got such personality and character in the ring. And because they have all with Jericho turned sort of face, I'm ready to see them sort of winning now. So the match disappointed me a little bit, because I felt like after they faced FTR previously before that and lost that, I was hoping that they would have picked the win up. So I must admit, I was a bit disappointed by that match, because I do love them. I do love FTR as well, but just obviously Santana and Ortiz a little bit more.
Yeah, without that. Well, shame it ended like that. Cash is tended to by the medics for a pretty nasty looking cut on his arm. And then we see Dr. Britt Baker, DMD's interview backstage. Says Nyla Rose breaks bitches, but she still managed to tap her out with a broken freaking wrist. She keeps getting hurt, and Reba can't keep looking out for her by herself. So it's time to get somebody to look out for them. As we go to break, and then we're back from commercial. Tony Schiavone's on stage. Special announcement for the AEW Rampage, and like we talk about on August 20th, it will be Chicago for the first dance. Predictably, CM Punk chants go up after the announcement. And then Alex Marvez caught up with Darby Allin and Sting, and the former TNT champion said that the greatest wrestlers come to AEW to prove it, even if you think you're the best in the world. What do you think this means?
I mean, straight away, like I instantly thought of CM Punk. So this goes back to what we were saying originally about this is why fans would riot if like he's just not there, because they're gonna be like, okay, well, Darby's calling him out. That was a clear, obvious reference.
It couldn't be more obvious if he had a sign that actually said CM Punk in it, I suppose. But we'll move on, and it's the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship. It's Hikuleo versus Lance. Came out with his son to a lovely pop. I always like it when legends gets pop, and Haku's probably still the toughest man in the entire arena anyway.
Definitely. I still remember him and like his matches, teaming with Rikishi. It was like so dominant.
I remember Jake the Snake Roberts saying once that if he was in a tank with a gun with a bullet in it and he's facing off with Haku, he would shoot himself.
Yeah,
That just shows you.
that's just telling you a lot, isn't it?
Haku is a tough son of a bitch, and we see the big men in this match wage a physical war with young Hikuleo controlling the pace during a commercial. The Murdoch Monster fought back, walking the ropes, delivering a moonsault. Moments later, he put his opponent away with a blackout for the pinfall victory. We did see Haku with the death grip low. I think the big man is still
God.
green. What were your thoughts?
He's still got it. He's still got it, hasn't he? Because when he did that, I was like, okay, he's still goddamn strong. Whoa. The match itself was brilliant. I think it was a great way to sort of introduce him to AEW fans, and by bringing out Haku, who is such a legend, it kind of also solidifies who he is. He was also part of the Bullet Club in New Japan, so I think that there was a lot of people that probably could have recognized him from there. But I think it was a really great showing for him to be introduced onto AEW. I look forward to seeing like more potential matches with him in it. I definitely think that he's got the look to like draw people in, and I think he could actually go quite far if he stuck with AEW too.
Well, we see Cody Rhodes interviewed backstage from the gorilla position, but then Malachi Black runs up and nails him with a big boot. They brawl. Cody drags him up the steps and out on the stage. The brawl continues, but Black lays him out with a wicked knee strike. Wrestlers and agents security swarm, but Malachi lays through with the black mass. He stares at the chaos as we go to a break. The handling of Malachi Black at the moment has been fantastic, hasn't it?
It really has, and it really does just kind of go to show you how much WWE were really sitting on him and not doing anything and utilizing that talent that he has. He's just kind of come in and straight from the get-go just been dominant, and it's just been so fun to see.
Well, back from commercial, we get footage from earlier of Miro cutting a promo. We talk about a dominant former WWE talent. He says the TNT Championship is known for open challenges, but since he won the title, his challenges is drawn up, but he's going to fight next week. No one can take his divine right away from him. The only thing that motivates him is a vengeful God and a double-jointed wife. We move on to Christian Cage and Jurassic Express versus the Hardy Family Office, Angelico, Jose Cassidy and Mark Quinn. We see Cage chase a long-time rival up the ramp to the back, eliminate the threat of interference. The face fought the opposition, and Cage scored the win for his team. And after the match, though, Captain Charisma caught a pair of brass knuckles to the face, courtesy of the Blade. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, that was just a cheap shot by the Blade, and I mean the feud that they've been having kind of on and off with Orange Cassidy, it was like, okay, so now he's moved on, sort of thing, to Christian. I was a little bit apprehensive because I was like, are they going for a full feud with Christian and Matt Hardy still? Are they still going through with this and stuff like that?
Well, this is the thing. I think Cage needs to kind of move on from Hardy, and kind of get away from it.
We got kind of the nostalgia out the way, and I do want to see kind of Christian get into some more sort of feuds with people that aren't maybe from WWE.
I think about that. And I think the face is so over, especially with Jurassic Express coming out. And what I want to see is Jungle Boy on Luchasaurus' shoulders and Marco Stunt on Christian's shoulders. That's how I want.
Oh my gosh, can they do that, please? That would be amazing.
But we talked about Santana Ortiz earlier. Do you think Private Party are struggling maybe a little bit at this moment in time? Because they look to be going places early on in the year.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit the exact same. Even when you look back on some of the history that they've had before they were signed with the sort of Hardy Foundation, Isaiah Cassidy had an amazing match against Chris Jericho. I think that they were both really on the right steps to, maybe securing like their first championship win. However, I hate using this word, but I feel like they've been jobbing out a lot lately. And I don't know how much good it is doing being part of this faction, because you've kind of got like all this faction of all of these different tag teams. So it's like Private Party and then Butcher and a Blade and things like that. So I just wonder where they're going with this thing, because if there's going to be, you know, an outcome to Private Party being with the Hardy Foundation, then maybe there could be a reason why they've been jobbing out so much, but there doesn't seem to be anything happening with them.
Yeah,
So,
and so I'm about to say, but there's a lot of, I think, AEW talent, because there's a load of talent anyway. I think a lot of them are kind of plateauing at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Just kind of staying in the same place. Don't get me wrong, they're getting featured occasionally, but it's like even Orange Cassidy, like we talk about Orange Cassidy. You know, he had the Blade feud, and now it's like, what's he kind of do? You know, where's he going? Lance Archer, you know, talks about Brian Cage.
I also think it's quite difficult because of the amount of injuries that we've got to some tag teams right now. You know, like we've got Top Flight's Dante, who's fighting by himself at the moment because his brother's still injured. Is it Ray? Which one's injured? It's either Ray Fenix or Penta is injured.
Yeah, I think Phoenix is injured, but hopefully, like I said, coming back soon.
But like even Butcher, it's the Butcher that's injured. You know. So I feel like once some of these tag teams actually start coming back, we can maybe get a couple more different feuds from within tag teams, because you've got like, you know, FTR and Santana and Ortiz right now currently feuding and things like that. It's just like the Private Party just did so good in some of their tag team matches when they weren't a part of a faction. It was just those two. So I hope that with hopefully people returning from injury soon, we can kind of get back to just featuring normal tag team feuds.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point as well. Well, back from commercial, we get a video package for the ultra-violent king himself, Nick Gage, MDK Eastern Bloc H8 Club represent, apparently. Varsity Blondes and Julia Hart get an inset promo. We'll talk about how they're going to prove herself tonight. Thunder Rosa also gets a promo. She says she's an outsider, but tonight she's going to have her first official match as a member of the roster and show what she can do, and releases Julia Hart versus Thunder Rosa. And Hart did pop a fight, showing gutsiness beyond the years, but it's no match for Rosa. She's competing on an entirely different level right now. Shaking off a bum left knee, Rosa picked up the win with Fire Thunder Driver to retain her #1 ranking in the women's division. What a pop Rosa got. She is now officially AEW, so it must be her versus Baker at All Out.
Honestly, if we don't get that, you've got to remember, go straight back to where the feud between her and Britt Baker already started. That unsanctioned match will go down in history as one of the best matches in women's division history. Just hearing that pop that Thunder Rosa got was amazing. I'm a huge Thunder Rosa fan. And yeah, the match itself was really good. It really kind of showed Julia's inexperience still. And I'm not like, you know, saying that as a bad thing, but she is still quite young. She's got a lot to learn. So, you know, Thunder Rosa was able to use sort of like, you know, cheering tactics as a way of distraction and things like that. Sort of like really teaching her like sort of the ways of wrestling. And it's going to be really interesting to see her as a full-time member of the roster now, because I think that she actually is going to be able to do a lot with the women in AEW, and also be like a good mentor and teacher for those that are young and new to the business.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent move all round, really, with Thunder Rosa. We're back for commercial. John Moxley cuts a promo, talks about watching the Olympics and plays he hasn't seen. Can't seem to get into Japan lately, but the second loses the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship, Tanahashi shows his face. Screw him, he doesn't get to wrestle him, he's dead to him. He's had a huge stack of contracts to his boy in the office in Japan. We'll see what comes through the forbidden door. Maybe Tanahashi's the only smart one who learned from what happened to Nagata and Suzuki, who understands what's waiting on the other side of the forbidden door. Now, a guy, you could argue this, is John Moxley just hanging around at this moment in time as well?
Definitely. But, I mean, I solely actually put that on the fact that he has just become a new father, and I think that they wanted to give him like a little bit of time off, so that, but like a more relaxed sort of schedule for the moment, considering the fact that right now we are, so say, you know, hearing of these other big names that are coming into it. They're probably just I feel they're just kind of giving him a little bit of a sideline, just so that he can have be a bit more relaxed, can actually spend a bit more time at home with his family and his new daughter. but I don't think it's going to be for long. I think he'll come back with a vengeance. And I really I'm hoping to maybe even see more of him and Eddie Kingston, because they're great together.
Would you rather see like a kind of team with Eddie Kingston or like kind of Moxley heel turn? Because Moxley turning heel.
I really wouldn't mind it if he actually turned heel. I just don't know if it's the right time just yet. I think if he is going to be turning heel, I think he should do it against someone other than Eddie Kingston, because we've already kind of had a feud between them where it was Eddie Kingston who was the heel. And I feel like if Jon Moxley's going to go heel, like he has to like go against like a real baby face. Like imagine if he went up against Hangman Page after, who knows, let's say Hangman Page is successful somewhere down the line at the end of the year maybe as champion, and he's the biggest babyface put over, and then you have Jon Moxley return with full vengeance as a heel. That would be a great feud to have between those two. Or even the likes of Jon Moxley turning heel on the likes of Jungle Boy, because Jungle Boy's such a great heel as well, a great face, sorry. So like I'd want, if he was going to be turning heel, I'd want it to be done in an epic fashion against the ultimate babyface.
Well, like, I mean, I can just imagine like this the hardcore fight between Darby Allin and Jon Moxley. Like that, I would pay, to see that. And speaking of hardcore matches, we've got the 5 Labors of Jericho no rules match main event for Dynamite. Chris Jericho versus Nick Gage, and Gage drew blood after slicing at Jericho's bicep with a pizza cutter and busting his forehead open. He shook off the shots to the midsection with Floyd, the baseball bat, and sawed away at the veteran's face with a cutter, much to the disgust of the commentary team and Domino's Pizza. After all this came after retrieving light tubes from underneath the ring, but not immediately utilising them. Gage set up a pane of glass between the 2 steel chairs, but Jericho used it against him, delivering a top rope Hurricane Runner that drove MDK through it. I have been watching, talk about main level wrestling, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? Mainstream. Mm-hmm. I have never, ever, even when it happened, I was just like, holy shit. Like Jericho to take the risk with the glass everywhere. We see Gage recover the count of the code breaker by driving Jericho into the glass. He added a series of light tube shots to the head, and then Jericho recovered, spewed the mist in the eyes of Gage and broke light tubes over his head. A juice effect finished the contest, much to the dismay of MJF. Jericho giving everything to the sport. Some people love it, some people hated it. What were your thoughts on this matchup?
I mean, first and foremost, can I just say, what a scary man. What an absolutely scary man. I must admit, I had no idea who Nick Gage was before MJF had introduced him, but I certainly looked him up once he was sort of chosen as the next opponent for Chris Jericho. And I genuinely, at the beginning of this match, was terrified for Chris Jericho, because what a scary man. And he just sort of proved it all throughout this match, like how terrifying he is. I don't think I was expecting Jericho, especially at his age, to be going through a match quite like this. I know that there were some people who loved it, some people who hated it. I'm not going to say that I was one that absolutely loved it, because I was actually mortified at half the stuff I'm watching figures. But I must admit, I just gained a lot of respect for Jericho as well at the same time, for like even being able to handle a match like that. A lot of people may have disliked it, but I just thought that he did really well. I don't know how to feel about this man. I'm really scared of him.
It was just, he's a bad man, and for Jericho to put his body through this as well, because Gage, to be fair, yes, he's getting paid on national TV, but he doesn't need to hold back if he didn't want to. This is the kind of thing about this hardcore wrestling. Like I said, it's changed a lot. People complain about Cactus Jack with hardcore wrestling, with C4 and Terry Funk, but even that is different now, because they have to up their game, and when you include light tubes and glass, it
just creates like that devastating effect as well. Like those tubes, like when you smash them, you could still kind of see the small little bits of white everywhere, like just in the ring, and you just got to think to yourself, like, that's all over the ring mat as well, and these men are putting their bodies all the way through that. It was crazy. the way that Jericho did it was like the Hurricane Run off the top rope as well with Nick Gage into the glass, like all of that. Then it was just all taking its like toll on both of their bodies, and I just had a lot of respect for Jericho for being able to actually go through with it.
Well, post-match, MJF gets up from the commentary and complains. He starts cutting a promo using some verbiage from the pipe bomb, as you sit there. And he says he doesn't even going to wrestle him, especially known label number 3. Jericho has to hit a move off the top rope to win. His opponent is somebody that came up in the previous feuds, Juventud Guerrera. Yes, the juice is loose. What a show that was for Dynamite, to be fair. Absolutely amazing stuff. And rating-wise, it averaged 1.1 million viewers as well. That's slightly down from the previous week, but it's still the fourth highest viewership the show has drawn since premiering in October 2019. The show's great. The ratings are great. Things are going brilliant for AEW at that moment in time.
Definitely. I mean, that is, again, what we've been saying throughout a lot of this podcast is that it really was great storytelling. To go back to a clip from all the way in 2019 where that Jericho is just like talking smack. It's not like that he really was like calling out the Guerrera back in that back at that time, but just kind of proving a point to MJF, telling him to Google it and look it up, and then MJF over a year later bringing that feud back. It was just excellent storytelling. Hats off to him.
Right, now we move on to August 4th edition of Dynamite. Show opens with commentary hyping the show, and then Chris Jericho versus Juventud Guerrera, the third labour of Jericho match, and the former AEW World Champion delivered a backbreaker, but referee Aubrey Evans refused to count, reminded Babyface that he has to win by coming off the top rope. He countered the top rope Hurricane Runner by Juvi. Guerrera fought out and hit the Juvi driver 1 minute later for a near fall. Jericho recovered and delivered a Jesus effect from the top rope and scored the win. After the match, Wardlow attacked Jericho and F10'd Juvi. Then MJF announced next week's label will be a match against the big man with himself as a special guest referee. What were your thoughts on this opening?
So I was really looking forward to this match, especially as, like we just mentioned, that the way that the previous one had ended. It just seemed very exciting to kind of get both of these two back in the ring. I know that there was like a lot of like up and down comments about his wrestling and stuff, but you know what, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. He's not been wrestling, and yet he's a retired wrestler, and I think he did really well and looked good in the ring. I enjoyed this match, but I also really enjoyed the way that Jericho ended it with like a backhanded off the top rope Judas effect. I thought it was really, really clever.
It's finished and the fans made this, and after all the labours, it's only Wardlow, but I see what they're doing. Like I said, this match was good 20 years ago.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to go and say it was the best match out there, but again, I think it was just nice for a bit of nostalgia. It didn't go too long either, and that was probably for the best.
We'll get Lucha Brothers interview backstage. Alex Abrahantes says Pac should have been here, but conveniently all his travel got cancelled, and who would do that? And again, Andrade El Idolo and Chavo Guerrero roll up to wonder what their thank yous for the limousine last week are. They came out to work for Andrade to get the treatment every week. The brothers reiterate they don't work for anybody, walk off, while Chavo tells Andrade that they'll come around. Back from commercial, Tony Schiavone interviews a Dark Order. Hangman Adam Page rolls up and everybody asks where he's been, and Page is upset that he lost them their tag shot. They support him, but he says he needs to handle his own business for a little and go their own separate ways. They again reassure him that they're friends, and Adam reiterates his desires to go it alone and leave. Uno says they need to give him his space. I'm going to miss Page in the Dark Order, but absence makes the heart grow fonder, I suppose.
That is very true, and I also think that this is the best way that they can continue having that friendship with Hangman Page. You got to think again, we were talking about this earlier, like him having ups and downs and things like that. So I think that there is a little bit of like tough loving that needs to happen for him to pick himself back up, because he does this a lot to himself, where he beats himself up for the losses and isolates himself. So he kind of needs to go through his own thing, and if they're continuously pestering him, it's just going to push him away even more. So Evil Uno was smart to be like, no, let him go.
But I think that's what makes Page so relatable. When you've just said that, with the losses and the stuff that affects him, it's real life. It's not like he comes out a week later and spills some old shit and just carries on. You know, it actually has an effect long term. You know,
I feel like a lot of people can even like relate to like feeling like, the losses of ups and downs and how to handle it and how they deal with it. And like you said, he's very relatable because he handles it well and actually kind of shows that to the crowd how he's handling it.
Well, we get an inset promo for 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. They talk about how underutilized they are and call their opponents out. And we get 2.0, Jeff Parker and Matt Lee, and Red Death, Daniel Garcia versus Darby Allin, Eddie Kingston, and Jon Moxley. The action broke down coming out of the break with Moxley running over Garcia at ringside, Allin wiping out Lee. That was funny. A tag to Moxley Spark to come back. That culminated with Allin executing the coffin drop to Garcia for the pinfall victory. Afterwards, the beloved threesome stood tall alongside Sting. Again, a really cool moment. Two of AEW's biggest stars. And Never Rise, one of my guilty pleasures on NXT. I wish them all the in this match.
Again, I was about to agree with you. I was really excited to see that they actually were showing up in AEW. I think they were extremely underused in NXT, and I just was a little bit sad to hear that they had ended up leaving NXT. Darby Allin, Eddie Kingston, and Jon Moxley was the tag team I never knew I needed, but as soon as I saw all three of them, the amount of star power that was in that ring, I was a little starstruck myself.
It's just good to see, you're thinking, right, it's AEW kind of doing it right. We see a video package recapping Brian Cage feud with Team Tazhead, and back for commercial we see the Elite hanging out backstage and watching Carl Anderson spin the basketball. Doc Gallows is wearing a Ric Flair robe for whatever that's worth, and Doc says they'll give Dark Order an Impact World Championship shot, but they'll lose. Young Bucks talk about the lack of tag team challenges. They're going to get buried with the belts. Brendan Cutler tries to speak and get shut up. And Kenny Omega talks to Hangman Page. He says Page blew it at the buzzer, and now he's all alone and at the main event, and all that's left is to cut down the net. For me, though, is the Elite bordering on face a bit too much, or like you said, is that arseholishness coming across?
I still think it's assholes like vibes. They just kind of have this narcissistic ego that they're all carrying about them, and I feel like it's very much like Don Callis has rubbed off of each of them individually with this sort of narcissism. They're fun to see, but yeah, I do know what you mean. Like they've got such a humorous side to them as well. It is borderline like face funny. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is a difficult one, but I just still see the Young Bucks. The way that the Young Bucks dress is like assholes. That's how I see it. And then, like you said as well, Doc Gallows have Ric Flair robe on for God knows what reason. I think he might have just, quickly ran to like the WWE locker room, stole it, and decided, haha, I'm going to show it off here. And then, we also have to point out the elephant in the room of Kenny Omega wearing the Cookie Monster t-shirt.
Well,
that's not another little nod, or am I reading too much into that?
Go on.
Like because of like Kenny Omega wearing the Cookie Monster t-shirt, is that one that like CM Punk always used to wear in WWE, and they called him the Cookie Monster.
Well, I think that is maybe looking too much into it, but I was
but it's the exact same t-shirt, okay? It's the exact same t-shirt that he was wearing.
So myself, this is weird then. So something myself, Kenny Omega, and CM Punk have got in common is that we all own that Cookie Monster t-shirt. I never thought.
Okay, I might be reading a bit too much into it. However, though, Twitter seems to agree with me because that's where I saw this as well. There was a lot of people on Twitter sharing the picture of CM Punk with the Cookie Monster t-shirt.
Maybe I'm debuting on AEW Rampage and I don't know it.
What do you mean?
At least you're pop for me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you're pop. Everybody else will be like, oh, fucking hell. You're like, yes, James. Yeah.
I'll be your number one fan, James. Don't worry. You'll always have a fan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, moving on. Christian Cage versus Pepper the Blade Parks next. Cage brawling with him on the ramp before the bell bill him into the ring. Legit Layla Hirsch attacked the bunny, removing her from the equation. Blade managed to seize control of the match though, but the Wiley Cage fought back. He withstood a late surge by the Blade to deliver the spear and pick up the win, remaining undefeated in AEW's singles action. about his business. And I put him, will it be Cage versus Omega at All Out? We'll find out later on. And we get Proud and Powerful and FTR during promos to build up a match with the base of the Cash Wheeler getting his whole forearm sliced up last week. So that makes sense. One of the things I like about AEW is that, yes, that happened in a match, and then they can use it and build it towards something else now.
Exactly. Yeah, they do kind of like make sure to like carry on the continuation of what it was that actually took place last week. It's not a lot like some of the WWE content where something happened last week and then it's completely forgotten about, and we're just meant to forget it ever happened the week later.
I think without a doubt, it makes sense. We see Tony Schiavone interviewing Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Before she can really get going, Red Velvet comes to the ring, mic in hand, and Baker reminds her how she beat her in 3 minutes, and Velvet fires back that things have changed. She's 22-4 with 7 straight wins, and she didn't have to cheat to win them. And Britt said that's impressive, but also a different wrestler she was. Now she's champion, but she'll give Red Velvet the match if Tony Khan improved on the debut episode of Rampage. And Red kicks the mic out of her hand and ducks a crutch shot from Rebel, but Baker takes her out and stomps her face in the mat, grinding a crutch in her head to add insult to injury. Brett holds a title high. That's a great way to build a challenger, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem here is that Red Velvet is very much like a popular character that everyone wants to see. However, I don't think anyone is hating on Britt Baker, even though she's a heel right now. And I think this is where it kind of reminds me of the whole when Becky Lynch tried to go heel and everyone still loved her for it. And they were like, okay, forget, screw that idea. Let's just turn her back face because of this not really working. And I'm not saying that Britt Baker isn't a good heel. She is a good heel, but everyone loves her right now. Her and Cheetah are probably two of the most over wrestlers. And I don't think that even if Britt Baker does heelish things right now, she's gonna get booed for it. So I think that there's just like a bit of lack of who would we want to actually win this, because we all love Britt Baker right now, but Red Velvet is such a strong contender for that.
I would have to completely agree with that. We see Andre Odello stage. Chavo Jr. rolls up all excited because he found someone who will work for Andrade, Vergil del Sol. Chavo tells him that he has to shine Andrade's shoes, but he doesn't comply fast enough, so Odello throws him in the garage door a few times. Guerrero tells him he still has to shine Andrade's shoes and calls Lucha Brothers out, saying they'll never win the titles without El Idolo's help. I take it back. I said maybe Chavo is not the best on the mic and it might not work. I think it will work now between the two because they're kind of bonding, aren't they?
Yeah. I think that, because so far, since Chavo's sort of entered this faction with Andrade, we hadn't seen much from them. So I think it was hard to see whether or not it was going to work. But I think this week we could see a lot more of what is kind of coming into fruition, so to speak, when it comes to those two. And I think especially because Andrade is still working on his English and things like that, Chavo is proving that he is the better mouthpiece at this moment in time.
Yeah.
I just oh God, please just give Fuego del Sol a break. I'm really feeling for him now. I actually think he's a good wrestler and he's always trying in the ring, and just to see that little bit of bullying there, it was very sad. So I'm very team Fuego.
Well, back for commercial, Tony Schiavone starts to interview Hangman and Page, but the Elite interrupt to make their entrance. Page is glad the Young Bucks here because there's something he needs to say to them for a while. Kenny Omega says he can see what Hangman is trying to do, make a plea to rejoin the Elite, but Page says that's the last thing he'll do. Omega gives his recent failures. He shares a lot in common with a lot of these people. He's a try-hard just like them. They spent a lot of time thinking about forgiving Hangman for his sins, but given what the Elite are today, he kind of doesn't fit the bill. Cowboy or not, the Elite doesn't have any losers, failures, or second fiddles. Page hauls off and slaps him in the Elite attack. Magic Killer, but Dark Order go to make the save, but Uno and Stu Grayson hold their teammates back because Page wants to stand alone, and the Bucks hammer with the BTE triggers, but here come Frankie Kazarian to even the odds. Kenny gives Page one last look at the thing he'll never have and clocks him in the head with the AEW World Championship. What were your thoughts on this?
So again, I feel like a broken record, but great storytelling. I love that, we had it that Hangman said he needs to do things by himself. I love that you had the Dark Order, who are so passionate about their friend, coming out wanting to help them. But I loved that Stu Grayson and Evil Uno are trying to give Hangman Page exactly what he wants. It's just great storytelling altogether. Frankie Kazarian is one of those really underrated superstars that really should get paid a little bit more attention. I absolutely love the fact that out of nowhere he just keeps on turning up, and just, even though he continuously gets beat down on from the Elite, he just continues to come back. It's great. I really like Frankie Kazarian. I'm really hoping that he will end up like getting that win over the Elite at some point.
Well, yeah, rather than like kind of jobbing out to Gallows as he did a couple of weeks ago, which is a bit of a shame because, like I said, the gimmick does work. It just kind of maybe needs a few victories behind it. And I think the pacing of the show, I've said this before with Dynamite, the talk segments in between matches, I think very simple. Rather than have a match and then talking segment, split it up a little bit, and then it feels a little bit different as well. But maybe that's the way they're kind of going about it. I thought this felt very NWO. As well, you know, but proves Page will be the man down the road. And then we get video package of Lance Archer laying Dan Lambert out, and Dan says he's going to be back to tell more of the truth. And he's going to bring backup. Well, that's going to be good. Lee Johnson versus Miro for the AEW TNT Championship. The best man overwhelmed the challenger early and often, dominated the match through the commercial break, but the resilient young babyface fought back. Johnson's comeback included a dive over the top rope, a crossbody, and a super kick that momentarily rocked the champion, but Miro recovered and ultimately applied the accolade or the game over for the submission victory. My thoughts on this: Miro is the perfect monster. I don't know what you think.
Agree. I completely agree with you. And I could have said that as well. Like, you know, even previous to this match, Miro's match with Lance Archer is like watching two Titans face off against one another, really. They've been booking Miro so well, like making him look like the ultimate beast, like, you know, really kind of making you think like who is actually going to like finally get one over on him, you know. And I have to give so much credit to Lee Johnson. That was a really great match, not just showcasing how much of a beast Miro was, but showing you know, sort of the resilience of Lee Johnson. Like he continuously kept getting back up, trying his hardest. It wasn't a good win for him, but he came across looking so great, and I hope like maybe picking up one or two more fans on his side.
But and the thing I loved about it as well was part of the story was how long it took Miro to be knocked off his feet. You know, it just wasn't a big shot. It was kind of, and when it happened, the fans were more invested into it because of how long it took to kind of set it up. Really good stuff. Can't wait to see what happens next. The commentary announced the Rampage announced team as Taz, Excalibur, Chris Jericho, and Mark Henry as we go to a break. We'll talk more about the Rampage commentary team a little bit later. And when we see Christian Cage interviewed, he's announced as Kenny Omega's number one contender and asked if he's going to repay Layla Hirsch's favour early. He said he offered, but she has some best friends to have her back. He talks about how excited he is to get a title shot. He said he's better than good. He's elite. And then Bunny versus Layla Hirsch for the NWA Women's World Championship number contender. Stacey Hirsch mounted a comeback and applied a devastating armbar for the match. Camille confronted her in the centre of the ring. The size difference between Layla Hirsch and Camille is just unbelievable. It's a David versus Goliath story. What were your thoughts on your match? What were your thoughts on your match and what happened?
I mean, I enjoyed the match. It's not, you know, one that was like over the top amazing, but I enjoyed it for kind of what it is, which was like really showcasing what Layla Hirsch can do, and just also again goes to prove that size really doesn't matter when you've got the strength there. I'm really excited to watch this match between those two women. I think it actually is going to be a great piece of storytelling in the ring as well, seeing whether or not David can overcome the Goliath.
I'm really looking forward to Rampage as well, just because I'm a bit watching Dynamite and having that one women's match just before the main event segment. I kind of want more, you know, and I'm hoping Rampage will at least have one, you know, at least maybe even two women's matches on a weekly basis as well. But not a bad match for the time given. After the match, Smart, Mark Sterling, Jay Cargill checked in. Sterling revealed his client will return to action Monday on AEW Dark Elevation. Commentary team hype up next week's show. Main event time. It's going to be huge. It's Cody Rhodes versus Malachi Black. And Malachi Black menacingly made his way to the ring for the night's main event, a battle of light and Darkness against Cody Rhodes. And, of course, the animated heel split with Black, while the American Nightmare wore white. As commentators touted the big match feel of the contest. I always love his NXT entrance, but this was pretty dope.
Honestly, I have to agree. Like, the black silhouette at the beginning, just seeing all those like horns and stuff, it was great.
And this is the thing, and has there been and I've spoken about this before, the light versus dark, not since Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker has this been used so effectively either.
Yeah, agreed. And Malachi Black has just got so much going for him. The way that he entered and even, came into AEW, it just gave it the whole aesthetic behind it. So seeing this entrance, I just really was mesmerized by it. I absolutely love this, and I cannot wait to just continue to see him forever.
Well, without a doubt. Well, Black kicked the left knee of his opponent, gouged his eyes, and applied a half crab early on as Rhodes created separation and scaled the ropes. Black rocked him with a kick that knocked him from the turnbuckle and through a table at ringside as Rhodes limped back, obliterated him with a black mass, placing one foot on the chest of his opponent with JR screaming, "That's not going to work." And the heel scored the decisive and most uncontested victory. And JR going, "I guess it did." And after the match, Rhodes cut a promo that hinted at retirement, even including a reference to the infighting among the AEW EVPs. Before he could remove his boot and leave them in the ring, Black returned and blasted him with a crutch to end the show. What were your thoughts on this? I thought this was brilliant.
This was by far my favorite match of the night. It was amazing. I think the storytelling made me panic, because when Cody started giving that speech, I was like, there ain't no way you're retiring. No, not having this. So I was very pleased that Malachi Black put an end to it. I was like, no, you're not, and hit him. But I do know that he is going off for a little bit, because he's like supposed to be filming like a show or something. Plus Brandy also did just give birth, so you can imagine he might want some time off. But I thought it was really great with the sort of like storytelling of like, is he retiring? Is he not? Malachi Black just looked incredible. That kick off the top of the turnbuckle, I wasn't actually expecting him to like go through the table. So it was one of those matches that was thoroughly enjoyable, because you just didn't know what was coming next. It was such an arrogant way to pin him as well. I could just see this being like really good sort of storytelling in the future for like an epic comeback from Cody to finally get his revenge one day. Definitely something I'm looking forward to seeing more.
Yeah, I mean, not since Brody Lee has Cody put someone over to this extent. Malachi Black is now a star in AEW. Cody's no longer the number one face, though, and I don't know if it's due to his opponent or just because the momentum for Adam Page, but Cody, maybe, like I said, go away and come back, will be fine. Black Mass is one of my favourite finishes. I'm annoyed that, like you talk about fantasy booking or whatever else it is. I've always wanted Aleister Black to win the Money in the Bank, right? You win the Money in the Bank, and then he'll go and face the champion just in the middle of the ring. He'll pop the briefcase down in the centre. Referee calls for the bell. Black Mass pins the champion, walks out with a title belt. That's how dangerous that finisher is.
Do you know what I mean? It's so devastating, and he is so good at executing it so well. Hardly ever do you ever see him like even miss. So it just comes across devastating on multiple levels. I think that we could still see that type of thing happen, but with the, they do the casino queen, right?
Yeah.
The chip or something. I could see that happening for sure, but it wouldn't be like an immediate cash in, because of like you give it the challenger time, obviously. But that would have been such an amazing feeling, just to kind of see him have the Money in the Bank in WWE and just perform a devastating Black Mass. I think they missed out, truthfully, on that.
They really have dropped the ball, especially after the handling of him in AEW. I mean, it's a Curry episode, but the main event was something else. And the last episode of Dynamite is August 11th, and JR bumbling again on commentary. And the show opens with a memorable graphic for the late, great Bobby Eaton. He will be missed. And when we get a promo for MJF and Wardlow, he calls Jericho out and says he can't beat him. He's gone through more than he can bear trying against Max, and it's to the point where he feels bad. He even better get stopped at arm's length for the finish by the fastest, most volatile big man in the business has ever seen. But let's say, by the grace of Greek gods, Jericho vanquishes his titan and gets the match against MGF. He goes for all that just to find out he's still better than him. Wardlow said he's almost definitely going to beat him. And Max points out he failed to beat Cody Rhodes in a cage. And Mr. Mayhem crushed an apple in his bare hands in frustration. Is that the first time we've seen a little bit of problems between MJF and Wardlow, maybe?
I mean, like I swear they kind of hinted at it before, but then never really played on it. But I do think that this is the potential beginning of the end for Wardlow and MJF. I'm kind of interested to see this, and see how well it plays out, because I think it could be such good storytelling if they do it right and it's not rushed. Like I don't want to see next week that that it turns up and all of a sudden they're not friends anymore. Like, yeah. I want this to kind of slowly but surely push Wardlow to the point of like just going absolute carnage on him.
All right, well, we opening matches: Dante Martin, Matt Sydal, Mike Sydal versus the Elite, Kenny Omega, Matt and Nick Jackson. We get Matt on Matt violence to start. Another hot tag this time to Martin. Pop the crowd, which is heavily behind a 20-year-old after a few stunning near falls to target repeated V triggers and a one-winged angel. To add insult to injury, the Bucks joined their partner for BTE V trigger for the win. After the match, Don Callis joined the Elite for an in-ring promo, but Christian Cage interrupted. Jurassic Express joined him and the trio headed to the ring as the show went to a break. Following a timeout, a back-and-forth promo concluded with revelation that Christian will challenge Kenny Omega for the Impact World title Friday on Rampage, and Jurassic Express will battle the Young Bucks for the tag titles next week. But going back to the match, and I can't remember the last time a wrestler made the crowd go, ooh, ah, like that. And Dante Martin showed out, didn't he?
Oh my gosh, this kid is going to be big one day. I cannot believe how much he even had me kind of like, oh my gosh. I was watching this and just, he's got such talent. He reminded me slightly of Ray Fenix, the way that he's so effortless. He can just gracefully and effortlessly just be on the top rope and feel so comfortable. He had some real great spots, and I feel like the Elite really did think backstage, yeah, we're gonna put this guy over. Just go out and do you. And he went out and he did him. It was a great performance, and I think he's got such tremendous talent. I can't wait to see him grow more in this company.
Oh yeah, take a bow, son. It's fantastic what he did, and it was a great opener. We had huge CM Punk when Don Callis was talking to Christian, but Christian pulled it back. Great control. Sometimes you need to use either a dirty word or something like this to kind of get the attention. It showed right there. And the crowd singing to the Baltimore, and Kenny briefly stops the music check and makes sure they're not singing no.
Yeah. That was so fun. That was actually hilarious.
Yeah, it was. Credit to that. And then Malachi Black gets a vignette where he talks about the doubt we all had in him, and now eventually realise you're arguing with a god. We go to a break with Hype Reel for the Rose Family reality show, which of course Cody's taking time out for. Back from commercial, we get a Miro match where it talks about how Fuego del Sol is being offered a contract if he can win against him on Rampage. We see Danny Garcia getting an inset promo where he said he could have beaten Darby Allin by himself. He's going to finish his job, and then 2.0 calls Sting out and tell him to watch his ass because pro wrestling is great in 2021. Daniel Garcia versus Darby Allin. Of course, Garcia benefit from the outside influence of 2.0. Allin attempted to make a comeback, but Liam Parker again made their presence felt. The former TNT champion fought back low and delivered a float over stunner and added the coffin drop for the win. What do you think of this? Because for me, this was a little bit dull, but I don't know if I'm wrong.
Well, what I would say is I think that the match could have been better, but I did like seeing the continuity that after the 6-man tag, that they're still kind of talking smack about Darby and Sting. So I did like the continuation of it. But yeah, I must admit it wasn't like an amazing match.
But it's the commentators are going, oh, look at this young guy. Look at what he's doing. I was like, it's an armbar, guys. Chill out. Like, yeah, I know he's like 22 or whatever, but like, it's not like Dante Martin, is it?
Yeah. I didn't think that there was like moves that he was pulling that make you think, oh my gosh, You know, like it was an okay match. And yeah, I mean, Darby Allin got the win. That was the kind of like main thing for it. So I think it did what it needed to do, but I don't think that they'll benefit from continuously facing them each week. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but well, I think the main thing is, like I said, post-match 2.0 attack Darby, but Sting fights them off, and he gets into it, spear and a strike, and the Stinger hits a suplex on a ramp. Jeff Parker begs off the arc and draws up the punches. If we can, I mean, just imagine Ever-Rise in NXT a month ago, thinking,
Exactly.
you know what I mean, jobbing out, not even being featured on the show,
Yeah,
and
and
now
now they're in the ring facing the likes of Darby Allin and Sting. I mean, if there's anyone winning, it's them.
yeah, fair play to them. Well, backstage, Death Triangle are hanging out. Ray Phoenix asks if Pac has been seeing what Andrade Illudello has been stirring up and says they need to do something about it. Penta LLM says a bunch of stuff. And the bastard cuts Alex Abrahantes off from translating and asks Lucha Brothers to let him focus on Andrade while they go after the gold they deserve. Pac said he doesn't know Andrade or like him. He don't know why he's obsessed with Death Triangle, but that stops now. And if he has a problem, what's he saying? Well, anywhere, anytime, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. He's easy to find. Don't get me wrong, I love Pac, I love Andrade, but is this too close to the Eddie Kingston storyline when he was trying to split him up? What was it, 8 months ago now?
I see what you mean, but I feel like right now is a little bit different just because of the fact that they're trying to recruit them rather than Eddie Kingston was already in there trying to in with them, but trying to just kind of draw a wedge. I do like the fact that they're kind of fighting this though, because I think it's very on the nose of having Andrade join AEW and then him instantly team up with Ray Phoenix and Penta. And I really love Death Triangle. All three of them together, I think, just work really well. So I do like this, especially because just Pac is getting more screen time. You know, I think especially because of the pandemic and everything like that, he wasn't a big feature before on AEW. So I am liking the fact that we're seeing them back together now. I just don't need continuous promos. Just give us some matches now with them in. Like, give us Pac versus Andrade. Give us the Lucha Brothers versus even the Young Bucks, and put those titles on those damn boys because they deserve the belts.
We're ratted out, yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm a fan of them all, but I don't think that this needs to be like a massive ongoing feud between Andrade and the Lucha Brothers and Pac.
No, like you said, let's have Andrade wrestle now. That's what he's good at.
Yeah.
That's what we want to see. And like
We've
you said, with
seen too
Lucha
many
Bros as
promos
well.
of them that I'd like to see him back in the ring.
Yeah. Well, next match, best friends Chuck Taylor, Orange Cassidy, and Wheeler Yuta versus Hardy Family Office, Cassidy, Mark Quinn, and Matt Hardy at ringside. Nyla Rose wiped out Chris Statlander, who would meet later in the show. Private Party laid out Yuta with gin and juice, but Cassidy broke up the pin. The action broke down, and Hardy delivered a twist of fate to Yuta for the pinfall victory. Matt Hardy, I just don't know. Even the crowd seems a little bit quieter for him now. It wasn't a bad match, but it's insane chaos for Matt Hardy at this point.
Do you know what? I think that Matt wrestling, as well as Matt being like sort of like the manager of this whole Hardy Foundation, just isn't working out. I think it needs to be one or the other. I think that he gets a pop from the crowd being the heel that he is, but I don't necessarily think that like it's always like a good pop. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like things need to like change it up. I'm not sure whether or not this whole money grabbing Matt character is working out as much as other previous characters that he's played. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something a little bit off at the moment. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I don't want to say this as a bad thing because I'm not trying to badmouth the wrestlers, but I feel like the Hardy Foundation seems a bit messy. Yeah. I don't really know who's fully a part of the foundation. Like, you've got Angelico and his partner, I've forgotten his name right now off the top of my head. Like, sometimes they're part of it, they're sometimes not. Like, I feel like that there's part-timers in that foundation. Like, I really don't know who is like the whole Ultimate Faction. So I don't know. I think it might be just a little bit sloppy. Well,
maybe it's time to delete. I don't know.
I'm so glad you added that pun in there.
We'll see what happens with that. Well, backstage, Andrade Aldello and Chavo Guerrero interviewed. They called Pac ungrateful, pointing out all the gifts they're giving him and should be careful what he wishes for. Chavo suggests Andrade teach Pac who the boss is at All Out, and we go to a break. Pac Andrade All Out. What a fucking match that will be.
Give it to me. Give it to me. I was very excited when they announced that.
Back from commercial, we get another video package building FTR, Ortiz and Santana, and then Chris Statlander versus Nyla Rose. And of course, Statlander still smart and following a sneak attack moments earlier, made her way to the ring for a match. A Native Beast dominated earlier and often low cut and off an impressive walking handstand. However, Statlander answered with a powerbomb out in the corner, then landed a 450 splash for the pinfall victory. Fine match. I mean, Statlander on the rise, may be considered a shock victory here.
I would say I actually enjoyed this match, and I'll say it is thoroughly because I genuinely thought Nyla Rose was winning this. She was very dominant throughout the match, and it was like a surprise win that I didn't see coming. And I think Chris Statlander's 450 splash is just brilliant. She looks so good when she's doing it. So I really enjoyed this match, and I think if those two women had a bit more time, they probably could like go even harder. So who knows? Maybe we'll see like an eventual feud between these two take place or something, and it will be just absolute magic.
Well, backstage, Joe Bucks cut a promo mocking Hangman and Page and talk about how they dominated the entire tag division and proved that they're the best of all time. It's going to be easy as a loud beat in Jurassic Express next week. He goes to shoot a basketball to prove the point. Jurassic Express run in and dunk on them to send us to a break. Back commercial, we get hype reel for Baker versus Velvet. Tony Schiavone interviews the Good Doctor in the ring. Britt says she can't really comment on Red Velvet rise because it wouldn't be fair. She can't relate because she didn't have to rise and she's always been the top of division and the baddest bitch on the block. But she can relate to Velvet's fearlessness. She wasn't when the city needed a champion. She bleeds black and gold as much as anybody here, but it's been a difficult year. So she presents Pittsburgh hope in the form of the women's title. Speaking of hope, Red might have had a glimmer of it wrestling in any other city, but not in Pittsburgh. After it, Red Velvet attacked, referees managed to separate them, but only barely. I mean, what an ovation. We talked about Thunder Rosa's ovation earlier, but Britt is, I mean, this is the closest to CM Punk in Chicago that we're going to get, aren't we? Really?
Definitely. I mean, you just got, this goes back to what I was saying about how even if we know she's the biggest heel, everyone loves her. It's been so good watching like her rise. When you first see Britt enter within the women's division of AEW, she was a face at first, and I don't think she quite found her footing, but the character that she's got now, she oozes confidence, and you could just see how much the crowd love her. It was just an amazing pop for sure.
Without a doubt. We see a video package for Ricky Starks versus Brian Cage, and then Dark Order, even though Stu Grayson versus the Good Brothers for the Impact World Tag Team Championship. We get a hot start by the challengers, was negated by the champions entering the break. Dark Order fought back alone to Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows en route to a strong near fall in the former. The challenge set up for the fatality, but Gallows introduced a tag title belt, finding the distraction that allowed him and Anderson to deliver the Magic Killer for the successful title defense. I know your thoughts. I thought this was a good match, but it's a bit weird that Dark Order will never get their title shot again and then get an Impact title shot. I know it's different companies, but what were your thoughts on this?
I did get confused myself when they first said that they were going to give them a title shot. I know it's different companies' titles. However, I'm not sure. I think that they could have just done it as a normal tag team match. I don't think it needed to be specifically for the Impact titles. However, I know that they're doing a lot of promoting for Impact as well. So I think this was more just sort of a way to maybe appease Impact and get another Impact title on AEW show.
Well, yeah, I hope so, because I've been watching the kind of relationship between Impact and AEW, and I've known that Dynamite really haven't been promoting it, but especially with this week, with Rampage coming up and, of course, Dynamite, it's kind of hitting home like this is a relationship with Impact. It's just a shame that they haven't found space for Deonna Purrazzo yet, because I know Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker are amazing, but throw her into it, and then we're looking at a triple threat to remember for all time,
Do you know what? I did actually wonder whether or not we are going to actually get some form of promotion from her soon. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I do agree that I think that the women's division would probably even thrive a lot more if you have the likes of Deonna Purrazzo coming in and going up against even not even just Britt Baker, but some of the other women within the division. I think it would be great.
Well, like I said, the Forbidden Door is open for women as much as it is for men and tag teams as well. Tony Schiavone interviews QT Marshall and Aaron Solo in the ring. QT claims that Tony should be apologised to him. He didn't have time to wait, so Marshall will apologise to him, not for pouring a protein shake on his head due to his son, Chris Schiavone, right now. Oh, they pull him out of the crowd and beat him up until Tony apologises. QT doesn't accept and hits the diamond cutter, but Paul White is here. Marshall throws Solo at him and Paul choke slams him as he looks at QT Marshall. So we wondered when the former Big Show would be in the ring. What you make of this? Because it didn't fill my heart with happiness.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I did not see that coming with them bringing Tony's son into it. So I mean, at this point I was like, somebody better come out and beat the holy hell out of them, because that's just sad. No, that was really sad to see. I love Tony, and yeah, I didn't want his son getting like beaten up. So I was glad, but he took so long to get down to the ring. Do you not think?
Yeah.
I just kept on thinking, well, you guys asked for this because you had plenty of time to run off. You had plenty of time to run into the crowd and get gone. So I just think QT and that were stupid. He took so long coming to the ring.
Well,
they had plenty of time to run.
The thing is that I want this dream match now, or this dream tag team of we've got Chris Schiavone and of course Brock Anderson. You know, let's put all the sons.
Is Chris Schiavone actually getting into wrestling?
I have no idea, but the amount of sons we're seeing in Dynamite, like literally.
No, that's very true though.
Get them together.
Very true. Like I'd actually really enjoy that, seeing just all of the sons get together. Let's have them all. Then you also got Taz's son, Hook. Throw him in the mix. Can we please nickname them Sons of Anarchy, please?
And then you just got Dominic Mysterio in WWE going, what the fuck, guys?
Where am I? Why am I here by myself, for goodness sake?
Well, back from commercial, we get a recap of Joey Janela turning on Sunny Kiss on AEW Dark. So I guess that's going to lead to a main show here soon. A quick, you watch Dark and Elevation, do you? Do you watch it every week, or just when you can catch up with it?
I try to watch it every week. Once or twice, I've not managed to watch it, but as of recently, over the past, I'd say month, I have been watching it and keeping up to date with it.
See, that is dedication there, boys and girls. So that's what you're hardcore AEW fan.
Can I just actually say it's very easy to do when they're normally an hour long, and they kind of start around 12ish. And I'm a gamer, so I can have it on in the background whilst I'm gaming. So
well, the main event for the last Dynamite we're watching is Chris Jericho versus Wardlow, the fourth labor of Jericho. We see Jericho deliver the code breaker early, but Wardlow escaped the pinfall, proceeded to establish dominance. Load of power bombs. I mean, a load of power bombs. I don't know who's paying Wardlow to hit power bombs, but he's got paid for that. F10 was unable to put Jericho away as Jericho made the comeback and applied the Lion Tamer. MJF raked the eyes. Referee Aubrey Edwards rejected the heel. Jericho to use Floyd the baseball bat, score the win with the Judas effect. A couple of thoughts on this. Wasn't MJF meant to be the referee? And second off, Wardlow's hair.
Oh my gosh, yeah. What about it?
Do you know what I mean?
Are you thinking of that for your new?
It looked like he had a couple of hamsters on his head trying to escape. Like at one point, it was down like the old Como.
Yeah. Yes. Kind of. Yeah. It kind of ended up looking like that. But I do agree. I thought that MJF was supposed to be reffing this. So I was a little bit confused to see Ref Aubrey. That being said, I love Ref Aubrey. She doesn't take no shit from anyone. She's a brilliant ref. I like how she calls it how it is. So I mean, if anything, it put a little bit of reassurance that it wasn't going to be a straight easy win coming from MJF's hands. So I mean, I suppose Chris Jericho was very relieved that he wasn't actually reffing.
Yeah, well, we don't know if he's spoken to Tony Khan to get it changed, do we? That's
Yep.
so, along with the storyline. Where we see post-match Sean Spear attacking Jericho, and Sammy Guevara makes the save. They fight. Wardlow gets involved and turns the tide. MJF puts salt in the earth and Jericho's injured arm. He taps on over, but Jack Hager's here to make the save. Max gets on the mic and says Jericho might have won the match and earned another shot in, but he hasn't heard his stipulation for next week. No Judas effects and no Judas as his theme. Dead silence and no elbows. And if he does hit the Judas effects, that's an automatic victory. He's got a prediction for next week. Chris is going to find out. He just hasn't met his match, but his successor. There's a new king in town. His name is Maxwell Jacob Friedman. And why not ban the fucking Walls of Jericho as well? What were your thoughts on that announcement?
I mean, I kind of presumed it was going to be something along those lines where, like, it's ultimately in his favor. I am looking forward to seeing this. I feel like it kind of does have that sort of labor vibe that Chris Jericho's been having all of these matches. So I'm ready for the payoff. I'm ready to see MJF kind of get a bit of comeuppance, but I also think that he's probably going to come out the winner.
Well, yeah, I'm about to say, and do you think the Labours of Jericho peaked with like the Gage match? Like they couldn't really top it after. I mean, the Hoovy match was alright, but you can't really go elsewhere. People were expecting fucking Superman to come out or something like that, but
Probably.
you can't do it.
I agree. No, I do agree. I think that Nick Gage's match was probably the most exhilarating, and they probably couldn't match that. However, I feel like because of how great MJF has been on mic and everything like that, it's not taken too much away from this whole storyline. I'm hoping, like, as much as I love Jericho, I'm hoping that like MJF comes out on top just so that he can continuously be that egotistical asshole that he is, that will forever like never let Chris Jericho live it that down, like that he won over him.
I think that would make the most sense for long-term goal as well, because we don't know how long Jericho's going to be around for, do we? You know, not just with Fozzy tours, but I mean the amount of times he mentions WWE as well. But we'll get onto that in a minute, because maybe not the best Dynamite, but still better than most weekly episodic TV shows. And now we move on to the first Rampage, August 13th, and we are live. And the intro is just like the commercials. What are your thoughts on the intro video in the beginning of the show as well? And also, what are your thoughts on the four-man booth of Excalibur, Chris Jericho, Taz, and Mark Henry?
I absolutely loved the intro. I thought it was great. It just kind of did what it needed to do and set up the whole excitement for this debut. I didn't necessarily think that we needed four men on commentary. At times I found it very difficult to like hear what all of them were saying, or at least know who was talking at times. So I don't necessarily think it needs to be a four-man team every week. Maybe because of it was the first showing, they did want to make it special. But yeah, I'm not necessarily sold on it being constantly four men on commentary.
No, I don't mind Mark Henry being the kind of roving reporter as well, but it means he's got a lot of running to do in between the kind of matches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Taz and Excalibur, of course, are pros. I think Jericho just needs to calm down, and
as much as I love Jericho, I don't really think he was needed on commentary. I think that, like you said, I think Taz and Excalibur work really well together. They work with well with the other commentary team, and I thought that having Mark Henry sort of as the main commentator for the Friday night, it makes it different, doesn't it? Because you've got like Monday's Elevation with Paul White, which is great. Then you've got your dark that is predominantly Taz and Excalibur, and then you've got your Dynamite where you do have JR, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur. They all work really well together as a team. I just think sometimes for a four-person one is just a bit overwhelming. You don't need that much. So as much as I love Jericho, I don't really think that he's needed to be like a permanent member on the Friday night commentary team.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. But our first match in Rampage history Impact World Championship, and it's Christian Cage, sorry, oh god, I'm gonna get sued, versus Kenny Omega. And we see Captain Charisma gained the upper hand first and talked the cleaner with a middle finger. Narrator Omega went after him with elbow shots to the back of the neck. Both men tried and failed to hit their finisher. Christian countered a suplex with a sunset flip powerbomb when we return for a commercial break. Orange Cassidy and Chris Statler watched from the crowds as former world champion continued to dominate the current world champion. Omega nailed a V-trigger but only kept Christian down for a 2 count. They went back and forth with signature moves and counters for quite some time. The Young Bucks and Don Callis tried to interfere, but Christian turned the tables or chair and hit his finisher on top of the steel chair to get the win and take the Impact Championship from Kenny Omega. What did you think of this?
I mean, what a match. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was such a great opening match. Christian looked so good in this match, as well as Kenny. He always does anyway. And like you said, when they're both like trying and failing to actually hit their final move, you really did start to ask yourself, what are we going to see here? Are we going to see a title change? And it happened. And do you know what? I'm really pleased for Christian. I thought it was a great match and he deserved that title.
Yeah, what a match and what a moment. And it's two completely different styles. There's one who had only been brought up from WWE Developmental, who's kind of worked their way through it now. He's kind of gone their own way with Kenny Omega learning else. And it shows that they both styles work and both meshed perfectly in between the two as well. And like I said, the pop from the crowd when Christian, and credit to Kenny Omega from putting his head into that chair. There's no other way of selling that.
Yeah.
And you know, if it was just an unpretty, you'd go, "Oh, how could he?" But with the chair involved, the interference, it just played it off beautifully. And Impact have got a champion now, and like Impact now can, you know, even lose it all out to Kenny Omega, they can it still makes all the sense in the world, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is also just great for Christian. You know, he did say he wanted to come back and he wanted to have that run. And you know, WWE weren't going to give that to him. And so I'm really pleased to see Christian now champion. I think it just does wonders for Impact Wrestling as well, having someone like him as a champion. So I'm really interested to see where things go from here when he does face him at All Out.
Yeah, well, that, like I said, the history with Christian in Impact as well. And like I said, he can lose it all out to Kenny Omega. You still have the third match there. And even if Christian wants to drop it at Bound for Glory in October, you can still fit that kind of storyline. It just makes all the sense in the world. And Henry interviews Cage backstage. The new champ is accompanied by Jurassic Express for a celebration where a little bit of the bubbly and the former WWE stars have a nice moment together. Christian promises to take a, but he knows how hard this one will be, and that the AEW World title will be even harder to win at All Out. And this shows the shape of Christian. He's just had a match with probably one of the greatest wrestlers of his generation, and then can still cut a great promo. You know?
Exactly. I mean, like he basically just kind of didn't even miss a beat in saying everything, because you know you could say that he was the underdog, and he's already got one over on Kenny now. So it does actually give you that feeling of could he take the title? So it's interesting, exciting to see.
It is without a shadow of a doubt. And then Fuego del Sol gets a quick video to type up the biggest match of his life. He can upset Miro for the TNT Championship. He'll be signed to an AEW contract. So Miro versus Fuego del Sol for the TNT title. 3 consecutive today's DDTs. Couldn't keep the Redeemer down. Fuego nearly won it with a count out, but Miro caught him flying for the top rope and dropped him on the mat. He sat with a big kick to the head before applying his signature submission for the win. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Miro is the perfect monster, and I feel sorry for Fuego in this one. But don't worry, because after the break, Tony Khan and Sammy Guevara come out. Khan hands Guevara a clipboard, and Sammy heads to the ring to tell his best friend that he may not win, but the fans love him, so now he's all elite. The genuine look of emotion on the Fuego's face, and the match itself. What are your thoughts on this? This was lovely.
I'm not gonna lie, it pulled on my heartstrings a little bit. Like I said, from the week before with Fuego, I'm just starting to be a fan of his, because he really is always trying his hardest and getting beat down, and he just took such a beating from Miro. Like you rightly said, Miro still coming across looking like a beast, as he should. But I also was gutted, because I was like, he deserves to be all elite. He really does. So I was really pleased to see after the break them make that actually happen. I think he earned that right.
Yeah, without doubt. And Tony Khan, of course, first time we're seeing him, and I reckon he's going to be an on-air talent in the end. I don't know when it's going to happen, but he's going to say to himself, "Oh, I'm going to be the heel promoter." I just know it's going to happen at some
You
point.
think he's going to do a Vince?
Well, I think he's going. Everybody does it. He's going to do a Dixie Carter. Everybody in the end has Vince Russo. Everybody who's been involved. If he doesn't, I'll eat my hat. But I would guarantee within a couple of years, especially if like the ratings go down, he's like, I'll tell you what, let me be that heel kind of type. I hope not.
I don't know how I'd feel about that at the moment, just because I'm not 100% sold on Tony Khan's good mic skills. So yeah, I think I'll have to. I'm gonna reserve judgment on this one until as and when that actually happens, because I don't know how I would take it. It depends on if he gets better.
I'm about to say,
Tony, I love you.
Remember the date, and when I told you, and when it happened, you'd be like, that motherfucker that he did say.
And then you'll be saying that too, because then you have to eat your hat.
Well, we get a commercial for next week's First Dance episode in Chicago. It reminds us that Darby Allin kind of called out CM Punk. It has to happen. Surely it has to happen. Don't call me Shirley. And then we see Mark Henry interview the main eventers from separate remote locations backstage. Red Velvet says she's going to ruin the AEW Women's Champs tonight in her hometown. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, says that even with a broken freaking wrist, at the end of the night, she's going to be and still. And leading up to Britt Baker versus Red Velvet. Again, another huge ovation for DMD and the chants as well from the Britsburg audience. And Velvet took control, began a sequence of counters and holds with the champions. Baker's injured arm prevented from applying the lockjaw at one point. The ref ejected Rebel from ringside right as Velvet drilled Baker with a super kick. DMD kicked out of a moonsault and versus suplex, but Velvet broke out the lockjaw again. Used a good arm to apply the hold and get the victory after Velvet showed a little bit of a hillside trying to get it in herself, and Chris Statlander prevented Baker from stomping Velvet into the title belt, but Jamie Hayter returned to AEW and helped Baker take them out. First off, what were your thoughts on the matchup? Because I thought Britt Baker probably at her best,
Yeah, really it was. I've got to give props to Red Velvet as well, because of I thought that her and Britt Baker worked really well together. There were some good moments that came from Red Velvet, and she did her best, especially because compared to Britt, she really was kind of the villain to the crowd in this match. I think she did really well. I didn't see it changing hands though. Definitely didn't see it changing hands. However, I'm not sure who this girl was or is. I don't know who this girl is that came in. There was a loud pop for her. I don't know who she is. Do you know who she is?
This is the AEW's slight problem. When you have kind of massive debuts and people expecting, so when someone gets attacked and they pop and they go, oh my God, it's going to be Ruby Riott, or do you know what I mean? Someone like that.
Yeah.
And they go, what? And even Excalibur has to go like, no, it's Jamie Hayter. She was in AEW, but she's kind of completely changed her look now. And it's just a new muscle for Baker. But because it's in the main event of Rampage, people are thinking it's going to be the Iconics or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's basically just a new muscle for Britt Baker. But I think, like you said, the fans were expecting something a little bit different. But then, obviously, after that kind of confusion,
was she wrestling before?
Yeah, she was wrestling. She's from England, and she was wrestling about a year and a half before, suffered a few injuries, and kind of gone way part of AEW and changed her look now, and has come back as kind of like this. So we'll see. Kind of, she might be there as like cannon fodder for Chris Statlander, basically. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, I'm gonna reserve the whole judgment, because I was really just confused by the end of it, because I was like, who was this girl? Everyone's like popping for her, but I have no clue who she is. So I'm not like overly excited as I would normally be, if I knew someone, especially because I was hoping it was someone else.
Yeah, well, I think that is the problem. I think that's what got the original pop, and then when they it was like, oh, okay. But luckily they kind of worked it out with Britt Baker beating them down and leaving to stand tall. And I don't think that takes away, because I think Rampage was a fantastic show. What were your thoughts on this? Because the hour program just flew by, didn't it?
It really did. Honestly, I was left actually feeling really sad that it was ending. I wanted more, and you always want that from a product, and especially like the for it to be the opening product, you want to leave people wanting more. So I think they did extremely well. I thought the matches were great. I think they put them in the best order possible. I love that AEW showcase a lot more main events that are female main events. I think that is one of their strengths. They know when a match between two women is going to be a main eventer and actually successfully work. And so, yeah, I think overall for its first Rampage, it was good. There was slight disappointment at certain someone not being there, but I mean, I'm hoping for the best that it will still come through.
Well, we'll see what happens with that. Like I said, that's nearly it for today. But finally, with AEW now having Dynamite, Rampage, Dark, and Elevation, is it too much or is it still manageable?
I think from someone who watches all shows, I think it is manageable. And the only reason why I say that is because AEW have a lot of new talent. And these two shows on YouTube, Dark and Elevation, they're just a little bit of fun. And they end up showcasing wrestlers that are actually trying to better themselves. Like, I think they're doing it in a really well done way where they're actually giving the each wrestler on their roster ample amount of time, and especially because a lot of them are still new or still, training to kind of be able to take on that level of like having that many people watching you. These two shows that are on YouTube really help, these younger talent wrestlers just kind of start getting used to that, start finding their characters, start developing them. So yeah, I think it is manageable. I think that it depends on whether or not they're keeping Rampage an hour long. But if they do end up making it 2 hours, they should probably get rid of the other. I don't think they have to get rid of them both, but I do think that they should get either rid of the Monday or the Tuesday night. But we'll see what happens, because they might just end up keeping it as an hour.
Yeah, well, but one thing we both can agree on, AEW has been really, really good this past month, hasn't it?
It really has. It's been on a real roll. I think there's potential for it to continuously contain this role and keep going with it. We just need to see kind of where things are going to go with some of these stories. But it's a very exciting time for AEW because they have a lot of sort of new attention right now. So they're just breaking it in and making sure they're getting everything.
Without a shadow of a doubt. But that is it for today. Don't forget, across all social media, Twitter at the WNR Podcast. I'm at the WNRJR. Do you want to just let people know where you're available?
Yep, I'm available across Twitter and Instagram, both at Jaxie Scarlett. You can find me there.
WNR also on Facebook and Instagram, across all the Google platforms. So this email at WNRpodcast@gmail.com, and YouTube, the WNR Podcast even have all the latest clips and podcasts at the same time on YouTube as do SoundCloud, on your phone, also Spotify and iTunes, where you can download, subscribe, rate and review there. So that is it. And we talked about AEW having an important time. The WNR Podcast is going through some huge moments and changes at this moment as well. Of course, our next episode will be SummerSlam live party, which would be fantastic if you can join us on that one, Jaxie.
That would be great. I look forward to it.
And not only that, we have got also, of course, the SummerSlam review show that we'll be bringing you the week after. And also, if you're up for it, of course, we've got AEW All Out coming. We can do another 3 episodes of Dynamite and Rampage building up towards the pay-per-view as well in about 2 or 3 weeks' time.
Brilliant. That sounds great to me.
Right. Also, because like I said, and I've said this now to Monty, I've said it to the old Monaco, say it to you, is that, we've been working together now for a year, maybe even a little bit longer. And to me, and I know you've got other projects and other stuff that you do, like the O-Face pod and, all this other stuff. And I don't want to kind of infringe on that. But to me, you're a proper WNR team member. Like, you are part of the family.
Yay. I'm very happy about that, and I'm very pleased to take on that role as being part of the WNR family. I am, still with O-Face Wrestling, but we are taking a break from podcasting at the moment, so we're not doing much. So this, again, is just quite exciting for me because I can still podcast with yourselves, and it's UK based, whereas O-Face Wrestling is US based. So I definitely would consider myself as part of your family.
perfect. Like I said, hashtag WNR for anything like that. And of course, we'll change up as well. But like I said, the next episode will be SummerSlam Live. But hopefully, like I said, the whole family can join together. We've probably got annoying drunk uncle will show up as well. Hopefully, like all good parties. But until then, I have been Jay Vones, and I was joined by the fantastic Jaxie Scott. Again, thank you very much for joining me. It is always a pleasure, never a chore.
Thanks for having me too. It's been great again. I look forward to the next time.
No problems. All right, so I'll speak to you next weekend, and I'll see everybody next weekend, like I said, for the massive SummerSlam Live party. Thanks for listening, everybody, and bye.